You're hearing me, but you're not feeling me.
We're hitting nothing but dingers here.
Boy, crikey, that's a great point.
Welcome to the Weekly Chaos. We are coming to you at the speed of sound from the Hexapod Soundhouse in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm Nick.
I'm Luke.
And I'm DJ on air.
We are going to have a great show today. Big shout out to our returning listeners and a koi hello to our new friends. Weekly Chaos is a headline news show that's all about variety, being eclectic, seeing the world from different angles. We don't know where we're going, but we know that we'll get you faster than you can say.
Follow us on Instagram at Velocity Chaos Pod, Twitter at Velocity Chaos P, and on Facebook. Also, trust some stars on the Apple Podcast, some love on Spotify, and toss us a sub on YouTube. Thank you, as always, for your support. Let's go.
It's time for the Weekend Box Office Report hosted by the Weekly Chaos. Here we go. The top 5 grossing films across March 24th through the 26th. Number 1, John Wick Chapter 4 lights a match and lights up the box office with $73.5 million opening weekend. That's scratching the ceiling of best case predictions for this film. Number 2, Creed 3 floats like a butterfly back into the second place slot from third place with $10.4 million. This boxing flick is dropping opponents on its way to $150 million domestic. Number 3, Shazam! Fury of the Gods gets zapped down to third with a low wattage $9.3 million in its second week. Number 4, Scream 6 murders another $8.3 million in week 3, maneuvering to within stalking distance of $100 million with a cumulative $89.9 million. And number 5, 65 fends off Ant-Man and the Wasp with $3.2 million and claims the last slot in the top 5, still laying a dino egg based on the $45 million hard cash budget. A couple honorable mentions this weekend. The Wandering Earth 2, a Chinese epic sci-fi, which is actually drafting off of the original one that came out and did a lot in the theatrical space in the U.S. and also went on Netflix to acclaim. It surged in performance over the weekend by 568% over last weekend. It only made $18,000, but its cumulative total in North America is $5 million. So it's still doing okay for a foreign language action film. And A Good Person, which is a Morgan Freeman movie, had an $834,000 opening in 530 screens for United Artists.
Nice. I saw John Wick 4. That slaps. It's a long movie. Donnie Yen, brilliant. Just the movie was good. Go see it. It's worthy of number 1.
Okay. Yeah, dude, I gotta hit that one, and I want to hit this Morgan Freeman movie because I'm Morgan Freeman.
Boom, that's out of this world. And you know what? I want to take you out of this world into space, but not too far. We had an asteroid come past the Earth within the moon's orbit. So that within 100,000 miles closeness to Earth, which that might not seem like it's close, but the moon is orbiting at about 239,000. So half the distance between Earth and the moon, that thing came flying past, about the size of a jet, 130 feet, 140 feet to 320. They estimated the size of it. So that's kind of scary that something that big is flying that close. They have been monitoring. NASA's been monitoring for the last 10 years the skies or the universe of stuff that could potentially harm Earth. And the European Space Union, they have a list of like 1,400 different objects in the solar system that's potentially could come in contact that have a non-zero chance of colliding or coming and messing up rotations and gravity of the Earth over the next 100 years. So they're watching out, but that's kind of scary. But hey, it's all luck, right?
I like how they're like talking amongst themselves and they're like, what should we do? Should we tell everybody? And they're like, definitely don't tell anybody. But I do need you to call Bruce Willis, Ben Affleck, Steve Buscemi, and Bill Paxton just to make sure that they're on standby ready to take care of this situation.
Oh, my goodness. I don't know who's funding that team that just observes this because, I mean, other than Bruce Willis and them, we already have them on standby. We know what we're doing. Other than that should be turned into like a gambling ring for the rest of us. Like, which one's going to hit today, boys?
Oh, man, that was a good one. Staying in the natural world for a second, there's been some crazy weather. This stuff is actually impacting the surface of the planet. Hopefully nothing else is impacting the surface of the planet anytime soon. But all the crazy storms that have been happening, Georgia and the South doesn't typically see, like the Southeast and towards the coast of the Atlantic. Doesn't really see a lot of tornadoes typically, but one they suspect rolled through like a Georgia area, and actually the next day they found that there were tigers missing from this like drive-through zoo. There's like just 2 giant tigers missing. Thankfully, later they reported that the tigers were back in their pen and they were tranked up and they were all just back in place. So a little bit of a scare there. You never know when weather's going to shake things up a little more than just what happened last night with the flooding or with the high winds. There's always leftovers after that we all have to deal with.
That's a great Bengal tiger. Wayne's World, a la Wayne's World too. But that just thinking of the movie Twister, seeing a cow fly through, but these Georgians probably just some kids looking out his window, maybe in the midst of this F5 coming through, and just sees this big tiger flying past, like trying to claw. I'm just thinking of like a wet cat in a bathtub, just clawing at everything.
Oh my gosh, dude! It's like, who's that zookeeper who goes, "All right, close the doors. Turn off the lights, make sure all the porta potties are clean, lock the tiger cage." We just left that one off the list for the end of the night. Like, you thought your job was hard at Guitar Center, okay? Letting out beasts.
Yeah. Someone missed that, definitely.
All right, I'm gonna keep it the natural here with animals and silly stuff. There was a deer culling that happened in Shaker Heights and Beechwood, Ohio recently, and they culled 7 deers. Culled, by the way, for the rest of you, is they're controlling the herd. They're killing them. But anyway, Shaker Heights and Beechwood are thinking about doing it again. That's like their new discussion. Like we should do another like deer cull. We got a lot of meat out of it. We got rid of all these deer, and right now they're sitting in debates. And we might, they threw it in with a council meeting. They're like, and we might build a park. I was like, these don't go together, but okay.
You know how they called deer in Georgia? They just accidentally let out a tiger.
That's exactly it, man. I hope they're making some jerky or something out of this. Like, you got to give to the people if you're doing this, or at least the farmers or someone that's going to use this meat. That's all I got to say about that.
Over in video games, there's a lot happening this week. I know we all got something to talk about, so I'm going to jump in first. This actually is a bit of a cross section with some business as well. But a year ago, not to the day, not as exciting as that, but Faze Clan had this broad experiment where they were going to go public, and so they actually launched an IPO for Faze Clan with a $1 billion valuation. It was a pretty big deal. But just last week, unfortunately, Faze Clan stock dipped under $1, and they were issued the notice of delisting, which essentially gives them 180 days to get back up over the $1 mark and like showing some sort of growth and performance. So it just seems to be a combination of trouble with the initial investors. Like they thought they were going to come out at $1 billion valuation, then it was going to be crazy and it was all be good. But some people balked, and then everybody else wanted to pull out. So they had some problems with like the big financial part of it. And that's just kind of sad because their competitive team just keeps slaying it. They just won the Intel Grand Slam, $1 million purse for Counter-Strike Global Offensive. So I just thought this was interesting that video games continues to try to push into this like very, very like economic, like public space, but people, traditional investors still seem to be maybe enamored by the glossiness of it, but maybe not figuring out how the actual economics work on the back end.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, how do they make their money? These investors, like they're putting in the money. They have these incredible talents in the esports world. Faze is, if you're in any awareness of Twitch or YouTube gaming or any kind of competitive gaming, you know who Faze is, or you've heard of him at least. And it's just, I don't understand how they make the money. Yeah, they can win prize money, but they have to, selling merchandise maybe, but that's probably partial going to the players and stuff. But you got to be selling stuff. I don't understand. Like, it doesn't make sense. Or is it event? Do they get part of the event revenue? There's just so many things that, like you're saying, how do they don't understand it, or they're just hoping that something happens, really.
I was going to say, man, you just got to go back to selling discs. We can't be doing digital downloads anymore. That's what's getting them.
Yeah.
So
I got something here. Lego 2K. You ready for that Lego 2K Street Racing? Coming at you. I guess we're going to mix, I don't know, Minecraft, the building of Legos with the hot driving of 2K, driving whatever Ferraris, all that good stuff. They got the McLaren, the Lamborghinis coming at you. I watched the trailer for it. It looks like a pretty fun game. It's an open world racing game, and it can bring your family together. You know, kids building stuff. You know, you build your car. I've loved racing games since I was a kid. Mario Kart, all those fun ones, Sonic's Racers, all that good stuff, and it's just something I think that kids can enjoy because it's an open world. So it has racing, it has mini games, it has quests, challenges, split screen, all these sorts of things. They have chickens and cows, all these good things, zombies, the whole thing. We watched it. It looks fun. I don't know. I mean, I'm probably not going to play it, but if I had a kid or if I were a kid, I'd definitely, it's something if I had time, I would, but I just don't have time. But it does look like a interesting, fun game.
Oh my goodness. I mean, dude, I was going to say, I played a lot of Lego games coming up. My buddy got me really hooked on all the Lego Star Wars games. Yeah. And like you said, there's always like an open world component. Half the time I would play some of the missions and I'd be like, I'm just going to go mess around in the cafes. So like they make that stuff super fun.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm going to download it because it's racing. You already know. So I'm going to give you the whole feedback. And like, you're missing out. We're playing this together and you can't do anything about it.
I get it.
For the animation staff and the modeling staff, it must be so easy because it's just like, put this blue brick on your car and go 2 times faster. Yeah. And it's just a cube that they just go, all right, done. Like they open Blender, done.
Lego NOS.
Lego NOS, just blue cube that you just stick on your car if you get an upgrade. So they must be happy, the programmers on that game.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's not the only thing with an engine getting an upgrade. Indian Motorcycles. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but Indian Motorcycles is actually changing their logo. It is a shock to their company. It's one of the oldest motorcycle brands in America. It's one of the few American motorcycle brands. They're owned by Polaris Motorsports, but their long-known Indian chief head is going away, and I think they haven't announced their official logo yet. I think they're just using their normal Indian script logo, but they're changing it permanently at this point. I think all their employees got a notice in the last 2 weeks on their doorstep, or not the doorstep, on their desk. That just said, "Hey, we're changing the logo. This is what it is. Moving on." And that's what they dumped. So,
if the Cleveland Indians have to do it, everybody else has got to do it.
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
Hey, it's an homage. I'm just a white guy. It doesn't matter. I have no say in it. It's an iconic thing. I don't think it's meant to be offensive or anything. It is what it is. You know, I don't mind changing things. You know, getting him a little more.
The last thing I'll say about it is I think the imagery is the big sticking point.
Yeah.
Right? The interpretation of the figures. I think a lot of companies will probably stay Indian Motorcycles, Indian company. I noticed a lot of Midwestern manufacturers are called Indian or Chief or something like that. And like these are mom and pop shop, machine shops that do a lot of business but aren't international brands. So they're never under the microscope, but they still have certain logos and things that you're like, I don't know.
Indian has been on my radar though. Like if I was getting a bike, it might be an Indian.
You should do it. But we'll do it all VC colors.
VC colors. Yeah.
I wanted to jump in really quickly before we leave video games. Dan Campbell has finally made it to Madden. What do you mean by this, Nick? You ask. The Detroit Lions head coach has been notoriously missing from the Madden games for the last 2 years, and in his stead is none other than Don Crimble. Jeremy Reisman over at the Pride of Detroit, he has coined this figure, this avatar in the Madden games, Don Crimble. And essentially, it's just this terrible, terrible mock-up of the real-life Dan Campbell, head coach of the Detroit Lions. Essentially, the Lions posted a video of him in this giant rig with all the cameras that was essentially scanning his likeness so they could import it into the game. And this is happening 2 years after he became the head coach of the Detroit Lions. And there's actually a really, really easy explanation to why this happened. The year he became head coach was the year of COVID. And when they do all these scans each year for Madden, it's at the owners, like the annual owners meeting where all the head coaches come in as well. So they couldn't do it that year. And then last year, Dan had a personal issue that he wasn't able to make it to the meeting as well. So he's just been ducking. He's been ducking. He's like, you ain't going to get me in a video game. But now finally being there, and we are going to officially retire Don Crimble.
That's iconic just to be someone who's not someone and just to have that lore built in. I think that's special.
I'll say that's one of those ones where he's got to keep ducking the meeting one way or the other. Or he's got to chime in on Zoom. Like, that's the whole deal. He's like, Zoom calls. No, man, you can come back. We're done doing Zoom calls. Like, no, I really can't do that. I mean, but then they got to make it a game, and they got to start changing Don Campbell around. Like, make him like a redhead and just like totally change him up.
His stats are just through the roof.
Yeah,
like best coaching stats.
Dude, that's so
Not even a real person.
Let's pivot to sports in full. So this past weekend we had the first Silver Series event for the Disc Golf Pro Tour, the Texas State Championship. This week the competition wasn't as close as the past few previous weeks. This week, my favorite to dominate the season, Calvin Heimberg, set the bar so high. He won by 6 strokes. People are saying that maybe the player pool was a little weak because they didn't have world champion Paul McBeth, Ricky Wysocki, Eagle McMahon, Simon Lizotte, some of the top players. They didn't go to that event. But I think either way, Calvin always has a chance to win just because he's built different. But the real, I think, more impressive win of the weekend comes from the FPO female division, Sai Ananda. First off, that's just a sweet name, Sai Ananda.
Oh, yeah.
She won her first professional tour, or she got her first professional tour win there. So I just want to say big congratulations to her, and an amazing weekend of just, shutting down the competition and getting her mood under control, or, getting the nerves compressed and down just to carry that win.
You just got to tell us who we're buying swag from so we can go follow them around the country.
Well, I'll tell you.
I love these reports. I think it's one of the fastest growing. Just in my head, it's one of the coolest sports growing right now. Because you got lacrosse and the XFL and all those other ones. But this really feels like a new thing and it could be its own unique thing. So I love these updates. It's cool that the women's sport gets just as much attention and is built the same way right out of the gate, right? We're not trying to bring along like a WNBA. Like, it's just they're there from the get-go and they're both valuable. And I think that's kind of a cool like dawn of sports in that regard.
Yeah. The thing with female players, like at the top level, it's like if you just go to like a local tournament, it's like a really good male player. Like anybody, like they're playing just as good. So it's very relatable to someone like myself. Like, oh, like I throw like that. Yeah. It's perfect. Nice. And yeah, it's great.
Cool. Also in sports this week, the World Baseball Classic was hosted on March 21st, which brings a lot global players from all over the world, a lot of MLB teams. It's kind of like the Olympics. Like if you're from Japan, you go play on Japan's team, or from Mexico, and so on and so forth. And I saw a lot of the highlights. It was just like electric. It was really cool to see everybody playing with their countrymen. And I think that added something really cool to the game, a really cool depth. But you also get these cool matchups of teammates playing teammates from the MLB. And the most iconic, which I think might go down in the annals of baseball history, is Ohtani versus Trout. So these two guys are teammates for the Los Angeles Angels, and Ohtani is famous for being a pitcher-batter who's just one of the most legendary players alive right now. And then you got Mike Trout, who's one of the most legendary players alive right now, and they are on one of the most legendary rosters right now. And it was cool to see them face off. I mean, it was in the finals, so it's a tournament structure. It was in the finals, Japan versus USA. The stakes are high, and Japan had just been bringing it the whole series, the whole tournament. And Ohtani, basically, you couldn't write it. It went, ball up. Then he threw a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, 1-1. And then he threw something outside, and it was 2-1. Then he threw another 100-mile-an-hour fastball, and it was 2-2. And then he just let one go outside again, and it was full count. And you're just like, this is perfect. This is drama at its greatest. And finally, he finished him out with a slider. And everyone's just so shocked because it's very rare that Mike Trout goes up to bat and doesn't even clip, the ball a little bit at bat. And he just took three whiffs and was out. So I thought that was cool, a little benchmark for baseball.
I was going to say, dude, that's like when there's a little bit of a drama in a baseball game, I'm hooked. Yeah. I mean, I yell. I always tell my girl at the time, I'd be like, I'm going to see a baseball game, but I need to be there. I can't do TV baseball. I want to be a part of that, like that buzz you get in the stadium. You're just like, it's gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing with baseball. It's like it's okay, it's slow. No, it's like any moment could be an exciting moment. That's what's great about baseball. And to have these two icons of our current era that could stand in any time of baseball, especially Shohei Ohtani, playing both sides is incredible player. He's probably my favorite player right now, just because he's doing both sides and watching someone that's allowed to play both sides is incredible. It's akin to Babe Ruth, but I think he's throwing up better numbers, I think, possibly than the Babe. So just seeing these two potential all-stars, like perennial all-stars on the same team, unfortunately, the Angels aren't that good.
Yeah.
So that just shows you baseball, you need more than one all-star, one super. You need more than a couple.
Yeah.
You need the depth in baseball. But yeah, that was amazing to watch that.
Yeah. You need the blend. I'm just going to wrap out sports for us, looking at the docket. Have you guys ever heard of Ken Francis?
No.
That's funny because not many people have, actually. Ken Francis, super agent, is a guy who's been going around all last week touting his relationship with Lamar Jackson. He's been essentially soliciting all of these NFL owners because one of the big free agency stories was Lamar Jackson, his franchise tag with the Baltimore Ravens. They couldn't just get to a deal before the season was over. And so he's kind of like out there in this odd limbo. The Ravens have since kind of like shored up their position with Lamar, but this is just complicated and made things even more confusing. So this guy, Ken Francis, started just going around trying to generate just even discussions to try to solicit some sort of paper. And then a few days later, the NFL and the Players Association issued a letter to everyone saying, this guy, Mr. Francis, is not a real certified agent, and he's not recognized by our organization at all. Do not correspond with him at all. Like, it was on Twitter, the public memo. And then Lamar was suspiciously quiet for a day or two, and then finally tweeted out I don't know this guy. I don't know who this guy is, or he's not representing me, because they apparently do have some sort of business relationship. Ken in real life is just some Florida guy who started a couple gyms. Dude. But my favorite coverage of this whole thing, the Bleacher Report posted a real life picture of Ken Francis, but it turned out to be the headshot of a known adult performer, Johnny Sins. And it was just it's just him in a tuxedo, just clearly a selfie right before he laid pipe. And it was just this is one of the best stories in the offseason. So Ken Francis, everybody, watch out if he's emailing you.
That's just a regular Dan Cramble situation. But no, everyone and their mother knows that Lamar Jackson and his mother represent him as his agent.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Is Ken Francis coming in, that's suspicious in the begin with.
That's like that Leo movie, Catch Me If You Can. He's just totally faking. I mean, if we can get in there with somebody, I'm trying this too. I'm gonna find the rogue sports. Once disc golf's a little hotter in the public eye, I'm gonna be walking up all of them I represent him too. Yeah, her too. Yeah. Because you can cover both bases. You got the male squad, female squad, everybody.
I just want my 10%. Speaking of 10%, let's go into modeling here. Levi's, they're making a move that they would describe as making shopping experience more personal and inclusive. They are going to be using hyper-realistic models of every body type, age, size, and skin tone. You might ask, how are they going to do that? Artificial intelligence. That's right. Nick has said many times this is the year of the AI. So that's coming. They are going to use sexily generated AI models that can be customized to more closely show what clothing will look like on your specific body type. I don't know if it's going to be sexily. I just threw that part in there. But Levi says they're still going to be hiring human models and will continue to do so. This comes after Levi announced that they would eliminate 800 jobs, which is almost 20% of its non-retail, non-manufacturing employees. When they laid off 700 employees last year. So, yeah, we're looking at 1,500 less. Oh boy! So the company, there's also a company. I don't know. They're probably in the same vein. They're called DeepAgency. There's a link, DeepAgency.com. Head there.
Fake agency.
Exactly. They're providing the service, creating virtual AI twins of people. So you send them some selfies, they'll make a virtual AI. It's amazing, but I don't know if we're gonna be able to believe anything anymore. Like, what's real that you see?
This show is real. We are real.
I'm taking advantage of this when it becomes a thing because they're gonna, you know, it's gonna be where they have like the 3D scans are gonna be displayed in store, and they're like, because it's gonna be a consent. You got to check the box because we're gonna use it for advertising. So what I'm gonna do is I'm like stuff my butt with pillows and do all kind of crazy stuff, and that's gonna be my new troll prank. Instead of prank phone calls, I'm gonna send AI images of me in Levi's jeans, but just have hair poking out the top of the waistband. Like, take that, Levi, laying off.
We are just creating a madman here, Luke. Just giving him all his future cons in one episode. I just picture the results of this being like when you got into like Tony Hawk Underground 2, and you wanted to increase the size of the person, and their skin started poking out beyond the rendering of the jeans, or it's just a super flat boxy jean that's just like, where are jeans? And you're like, I wouldn't pay $10 for those jeans.
Jesus. Oh my God.
There'd be some funny stuff generated from that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you can't give us the news, man. If we're gonna go rogue. But it's not all shenanigans. The next one I want to switch to is something I've always wanted to see, and I've never had the chance to do it, and I hope to one day. But the Northern Lights, the Aurora Borealis. Say that 5 times fast if you can. Aurora Borealis. Came out last Thursday. It was viewable from New York, which is not Cleveland, Ohio, as we know, and parts of Canada, and it's that electromagnetic bit that changes the colors of the sky. And I love this every time it comes out, or because there's always new photos. Photographers schedule their time for it, and every news outlet like partners with some photographers. This time there's a lot of purple and green, crazy lights, and it's just astonishing to me how beautiful the Earth is. Like, we're always staring at our phones, but we have moments like these to capture, and I think that's fantastic. So
that's cool. You know how downtown in Cleveland they have like the Terminal Tower, they change the colors. I just want to tweet a picture of the Aurora Borealis and be like, hey, can anybody throw up some Cavs colors for this weekend, please?
And they're gonna do it because it's just controlled by the government. They're just brainwashing us that we're round. No, it's all flat. They got a light show going. No, Aurora Borealis is definitely on the bucket list of things that I want to experience and see in life. That's just that's got to be incredible.
Jeez.
Well, this just in, there are no restaurants on the moon. That's why we are developing the idea to get the first restaurant on the moon. That's where you come in. You can help fund us with donations as we develop the idea of thinking about putting the first restaurant on the moon. We are also investors in Faze Clan. We have several donation tiers for you to send us money so that we can better think about the possibility of developing the concept of getting the first restaurant on the moon. We are partnering with the Solar Community Adventure Market to help us in this out of this world idea. So send your donations to us and put VCSCAM on the memo so we know who the suckers are. This is not an actual product service idea, just in case you thought it was. It's not. If there is something out there with the same name, we are unaware and offer no affiliation and offer no judgment on the actual product, service, or idea. Okay, guys, just to bring it all home here, we got our clickbait headline segment of the show, and this is where I'm just going to toss out a headline. I did not have to doctor this one at all to make it more fun, so you guys just go ahead and guess away. The Oakland Zoo recaptures 5th of 6th flying fugitives.
That's, man, the flamingos got away. No, they can't fly, can they? The pigeons, they get their pigeon stock got out. Hey, we need our pigeons back. Oh, that's Brooklyn. It's not Oakland. Whatever.
Brooklyn. Yeah, no, it's definitely not the elephants, and it's definitely not the penguins, and I really don't know what else flies. This is cranes. They got the big old legs. Those are cacawing around. No, parrots. They're probably parrots.
The special.
They're terrorizing Oakland. But I bet you that 6th one was just chilling on a porch stoop somewhere in Oakland, just hanging out, eating a street taco and maybe a little horchata. That's probably what he was doing. But they found him. All right.
You actually nailed it. That last part was exactly where they found him. There's a picture of this starling, this premier starling apparently is what they're called. Superb starling.
Yeah.
Sitting on a porch. You guys see it? Like, he's just chilling on the porch. So, okay, you guys, clickbait headline for you guys. You nailed it.
Yes!
It was just funny. They found all 6 birds went missing from the Oakland Zoo. Oliver was a hooded vulture. One of the superb starlings was missing. And then they finally found Duville, who was let's see here. That was the superb starling. So they found DeVille at a house on the front porch. Everyone has been returned. All of these fugitives are recaptured. So
Collecting a debt.
Hello, sir. Your Uber order is here.
All right, doors open. Go, 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 go.
all right.
Don't be a hero, mate. You look after your mates, and your mates will always look after you. Yeah, cheers.
So that's right. Cheers, indeed. This is part of the show where we go down to the land down under to check in with our Aussie friends for Australian news. This one is clickbait headlines, but it's also just completely incredible to think about at all. But it's actually sperm whale sabotage is what I'm calling it. The real headline is Eden killer whale museum shocked by theft of sperm whale skull. So this was a killer whale museum, so I don't even know what a sperm whale skull is doing in this museum in the first place. So it was probably the killer whales was like, that skull doesn't belong in that museum. Or is the sperm whales trying to steal it back for their museum? But anyway, this giant, I mean, a sperm whale is huge, massive, multiple tons,
Is
right?
that the biggest one?
I think so, yeah.
No, yeah, probably, right? There's a whale. No. The blue whale, that's the big one. The sperm whale, its skull is probably the size of a car. You know, it's the size of my HRV, the Honda HRV. And it just went missing from this museum in Australia. And all these people walked in the museum that day and were like, what is going on? What is happening? Wasn't there something hanging in the rafters the other day that was just the size of a Honda HRV? And it's not there anymore. Unfortunately, the museum curators were very attached to it. They thought it was one of the prized pieces of their collection because it was so complete copy. And people are just like, I don't even know why somebody would want to steal this. I can list many reasons why I would want to steal that and have that in my house. That'd be sweet.
If you can get in the front door.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's up with, like zoos, museums. We need background checks on these people. We let the lions out and we let a whale skull go missing. Hold the phone.
There's a lot of shenanigans going on in the world of wildlife this week. Quote from Miss George, curator of the volunteer and community-funded museum, not-for-profit. It's bloody huge, so this took some organization and coordination to whoever took it. No shit, Miss George.
It is not a small operation.
Yeah.
Just meanwhile, it's like Uncle Larry and Uncle Bo. They just were like getting way too toasty on their fosters. Like, we gotta go down to the museum. Be funny if we take the sperm skull. Yeah, we're gonna use it as a kitchen table tomorrow.
Paperweight.
You thinking what I'm thinking? Sperm skull.
Sperm skull. Sperm skull.
Tonight. I mean, that just goes to show you in life. If you got a buddy and an idea, you can accomplish anything. You know, you can steal your sperm skulls. You can invest in esports teams. It can all be a huge failure, but you know, maybe not. Maybe you're Dan Krampus and you're living your dream however you want to be. Or maybe you're even a Ken Francis laying some pipe in some made-up world. Because, you know, when you're going toe-to-toe with your bro in the biggest stage of the not MLB, that is a special time. Because Tigers are out there. Tigers are trying. You know, they're not going to do anything. You know, the Sox and Twins and the Guardians are definitely ahead of the Tigers right now. Because you know, we got to build ourselves back up from the bottom, one brick at a time, and we're racing, we're flying, we're pieces are falling off, and you know, we got the AI to build us back up and put us back together. Because when that asteroid's coming and it's gonna hit, it's taking out a city. Those are city killers. I'm telling you, that's gonna knock something. That's gonna knock some teeth loose. Because you know, we gotta make more space. There's just too many deer out there. We need more deer jerky. Our supplies are running low. We got to get on our motorcycles, ride through the clouds and the crowds, looking up at that sweet, sweet Aurora Borealis lights.
All right, that does it for this week's episode of the Weekly Chaos. We were happy to have you here. I was happy to be here. And I just want to thank our very own DJ On Air for running the board for us.
Hey guys, thanks for having me out on the air today. It's a great time.
It was a blast, and so many cool stories from your end of the world. Luke, thanks for being here, man. You want to bring us home?
Oh, thank you guys for having me here, everyone. If you're out there, reach out to us at velocitychaospodcast@gmail.com, or maybe something else comes sooner, but check us out on the social medias, all that good jazz. Thank you guys out there. You want a farewell?
Hey, I will say, this is Nick signing off.
And this is Luke signing off. Thank you guys once again. And like we always say, if that starling's missing, check the front porch. Have a good one.
That was the Weekly Chaos, brought to you by the Velocity Chaos Podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in and getting your weekly dose of news updates. Make sure to check us out on all your favorite social media platforms at Velocity Chaos Pod and podcast at velocitychaos.com. As always, we appreciate your support. Please tell a friend, and thank you once again.